Hey everyone, how's it going? Back here again with another video for you this week. After a little bit of break for the holidays, so I hope everyone had a great holiday season and ready to get 2024 off and running. This week, I want to talk about something that's a little bit different, something I've never done before, but I was thinking a little bit about topics to talk about. And one of the topics that I came up with because it's just on my mind for both personal reasons and for couple other reasons, but is the new trend with healthy cereals. If you're like me, a kid who grew up in the 90s or even before that, you probably consumed a fair amount of cereal. I know my favorite growing up was Cocoa Puffs. It was my jam growing up. I love Cocoa Puffs, but I ate all kinds of cereals, Fruit Loops, Apple Jacks, Honey Nut Cheerios, Frosted Flakes. Funny thing about Frosted Flakes is it tells you how far I think I've come nutritionally. Frosted Flakes are basically cornflakes that are covered in sugar, frosted flakes, right? But I used to add additional sugar onto just pure, just white sugar, just dump it right in there on the cereal. Yeah, not the best move for sure. But yeah, I stopped eating cereal a long time ago. But recently there have been a lot of healthy kind of or healthy cereal alternatives that have come to the market. And to be frank and honest with you, I've probably mentioned a couple times in other videos I've made that I use them, I eat them, right? So I'm not going to say that I'm not going to demonize them because I personally eat them myself. But I want to discuss their some of the different options, their utility, and just give some perspective on where they might fit in a healthy diet and where they fit in my diet. I'm not going to tell you why, but I happen to have a box of Fruit Loops here with toucan sand on it. Yeah, I used to eat this all the time as a kid, but I'm just going to read off some. So the macros here, I'll just read off the macros for 1 1/3 cups of cereal. It's about 150 calories. That's without any kind of milk. So just the cereal itself. 150 calories, 1.5 grams of fat, 210 milligrams of sodium. Not surprisingly, given processed foods generally have a lot of salt in them. 34 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of fiber within those carbohydrates, and 12 grams of sugars. And those 12 grams of sugars are added sugars. They're not naturally in the food. And about 2 grams of protein. So the ingredients here are what you might expect. Actually, when I first turned this over to look at this, because I haven't looked at the ingredients in a traditional cereal box in a long time, I expected the ingredients list to actually be quite long and a lot worse than it was, but it's not stellar, but it's also not as horrific as I thought it was going to be. So the first ingredient is corn flour blend, which is whole grain yellow corn flour, and yeah, whole grain yellow and degerminated yellow corn flour, whatever that means. I guess that means taking the germ or the seed out of it. Second ingredient is sugar. No surprise there. Wheat flour, whole grain oat flour, modified food starch. And it contains 2% or less of vegetable oil, which is hydrogenated coconut, soybean, and or cottonseed oil, oat fiber, maltodextrin, salt, soluble corn flour, natural flavor. And this is where it gets a little off the rails. Red 40, yellow 5, blue 1, yellow 6, BHT for freshness. I don't know what BHT is. I should look that up beforehand. And of course, one of the ways that they try to market some of the healthiness of these cereals, they add a whole bunch of vitamins and minerals. So they have vitamin C, iron, B6, B2, B1, folic acid, D3, B12. Now, I don't suggest that anyone tries to get their vitamins or minerals from a cereal box, but they do add them in here. They're not the best way to get vitamins and minerals for various number of reasons. Anyways, those are the ingredients in Fruit Loops, right? Traditional cereal. Now, I had one of the first alternative healthy cereals that we got here, which is Magic Spoon Fruity. And when I first tried Magic Spoon, I didn't expect that this was going to be my favorite flavor, but it does taste just like Fruit Loops. They nailed the flavor profile spot on to what I remember Fruit Loops. I haven't had Fruit Loops in a number of years, but the flavor profile, pretty much the same. You can see on the front of the box here, there's 0 grams of total sugars, 4 net carbs, and 13 grams of protein. Again, going on what's on the front of the box is never a good idea, so you've always got to look at the ingredients, the macros. So let's take a look at what's in this cereal. So Here we get about a cup of cereal is 150 calories. So the same amount of calories, a little bit less volume of cereal. This has 8 grams of fat in it. British Fruit Loops had 2 grams. It has half the sodium, about 160 milligrams of sodium. Total carbohydrates, 15 grams. And they have 1 gram of fiber. And like they said on the front of the box, no grams of sugar and 13 grams of protein, which is quite a big difference from the Fruit Loops, which had 2 grams, right? 2 grams. The ingredients here, the ingredients list is actually just as long as the Fruit Loops. But the first ingredient, as opposed to the flour blend that was on the Fruit Loops, is milk protein blend. So that includes casein and whey protein concentrate. Sweetener blend, that includes allulose, monk fruit extract. So those are more natural sweeteners, 0 calorie, or actually they're not 0 calorie, but they're more natural sweeteners. And then they have an oil blend, which is high oleic sunflower oil and avocado oil. Then the tapioca starch, inulin from chicory root, in natural flavors, salt, turmeric extract, spirulina extract, and vegetable juice for color. Yeah. Then they say that because out of those 15 grams of carbs, there's 1 gram of fiber and there's 10 grams of allulose, which those are digestible carbohydrates. You end up with 4 grams of net carbs. I don't think that's particularly important, even if you're following a ketogenic diet, but some people like to net out things that they don't digest for a reason. Is this any better than Fruit Loops? For all intents and purposes, I think they taste exactly the same, or at least what I remember Fruit Loops tasting like. Some advantages that I see right off the bat here, I'm just going to point out is protein, right? We have 13 grams of protein, right? Versus 2 grams. And then you have to talk about the quality of the protein. So yeah, it's casein and whey protein concentrate. It's an animal source protein. Is it the best form of animal source proteins? No. Am I going to say that you should be trying to hit your protein target through the cereal? No, never. You should never be trying to hit your protein goal. And so, I mean, it's good that it has protein. It's good that it comes from animal source, if that's your thing. But is this comparable to a steak or a piece of chicken or pork or something like that? No, it's not. So I'm not going to make any illusions that's like a selling point, but hey, it has a good amount of protein. You add a little bit of extra protein onto your already whole foods based protein diet. That's a pretty good source of calories, in my opinion. There is some sweeteners. So the sweeteners in this, they're whole food, they're natural sweeteners, which is good. But in some cases, these type of sweeteners do cause digestive issues, gut issues. People have issues with them. So it's not for everyone. Sometimes monk fruit and allulose, those things can not sit so well with people. You got to keep that in mind as well. And then you have the oils, high oleic sunflower oil. It is a seed oil, a plant oil. It doesn't sit up there with an avocado oil or a sunflower oil or an olive oil or something like that. But it's probably one of the healthier seed oils that you could probably have, right? And its fat profile is very similar to olive oil, actually. So it's not terrible. It's not cottonseed oil. It's not canola oil. So it's this highly processed oil. And you have tapioca starch and inulin. Again, those types of things can have gut issues with people. But overall, and then the coloring and the flavors, they say natural flavors, that's unregulated. Who knows what that could be? People say a lot of stuff about that. Fine. But like the coloring is coming from vegetable juice and spirulina and turmeric and that type of stuff. Overall, like, this isn't bad, right? If I have a client this is my breakfast every single day, and they're like, but I'm willing to have this instead, I'm all for them using the magic spoon. If they replace the bowl of Fruit Loops with a bowl of Fruity Magic Spoon, that's a win, right? It's a step in the right direction. Now, eventually, would I like to have 3 eggs and maybe some smoked salmon and some vegetables for their breakfast and then have a little bit of magic spoon on the side? Yeah, that's where I hope to get them, but one small step at a time. They're making improvements in the right direction, and that's great. Ultimately, I think that's not a bad thing, right? Not a bad thing. Now, I happen to have, like I said, I use these cereals a lot. Not a lot. I don't use these cereals a lot. I consume them, and so I have different brands that I've tried, and I have a couple different brands on hand here, so I will show you some others here. One of my other favorites here, just taste-wise, is this Perfect Cheeto Honey Nut Cereal. It doesn't really have a nostalgic flavor to me like any of the cereal that you might have grown up eating, but it's tasty. It's crunchy. It's got a little bit of sweetness to it. It's pretty good. This, no, so as you might expect, because it's called Perfect Keto, they're really targeting a ketogenic audience here. They have 2 grams of net carbs and 1 gram of sugar. They're gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, no vegetable oils, that type of thing. They have about 100 calories for half a cup, so much more calorically dense than Magic Spoon is. 6 grams of fat, 17 grams of carbohydrates, 4 of which are fiber, 1, like I said, 1 gram of sugars, 11 grams of sugar alcohol, so subtract out the fiber and the sugar alcohols, and you get the 4, whatever is the 2 grams of net carbs, and 9 grams of protein. Their ingredient list is erythritol, which is why it has that sweet taste to me, I think. Almond, which is where most of the fat is coming from. Milk protein isolate, so they're also using a milk protein to get the protein count up. So another animal-based protein. Water, soluble tapioca fiber, natural flavors, medium chain triglyceride oil, baking soda, bovine collagen, baking powder, sea salt, vanilla extract, monk fruit concentrate, stevia glycosides, which is essentially stevia, which is another sweetener. So this one, again, it's a little bit more calorically dense than, say, the Magic Spoon is. You might have to, again, pay attention to calories here. It's almonds, nuts. People could have issues with nuts, maybe. Milk protein isolate and collagen is where the protein's coming from. But again, I'm not going to try and get my protein from the cereal. It's always advertised on it. I'm not going to try and get my collagen supplementation from the cereal. I'm going to take a collagen supplement, but it has those things in it. It's just added benefits. The sugar alcohols can, again, play an issue on people's guts as well. Keep that in mind. But this is also good, right? But calorically dense for sure. And we're going to come back to that in a second after I talk about some of the other ones. Another one that's very popular is this Catalina Crunch. You probably see this in a lot of stores, even just regular grocery stores have this now. They're, again, also targeting ketogenic diet, says keto-friendly just on it. It's gluten-free, it's plant-based, so it gets that full check marks as well. 0 grams of sugar, 11 grams of protein, 9 grams of fiber. Half a cup, 110 calories. Again, just like the Perfect Keto cereal, very calorically dense. Half a cup is not a lot. 5 grams of fat, 14 grams of carbs, 11 grams of protein here. And they have a Catalina flour blend is their first ingredient, which is pea protein, potato fiber, non-GMO corn fiber, chicory root fiber, and guar gum. Their protein is actually coming from a plant-based, in this case, pea protein. Not the worst plant-based protein, but make arguments against plant-based proteins. Some is not as good as animal-based. You need to have a different blend. They're only coming from pea. You want multiple different sources. But again, we're not trying to get our protein from the cereal. It's not really that big of a deal in my mind. Tapioca flour, high oleic sunflower oil. Again, just like the Magic Spoon cereal, not the best oil, but also it's probably the least offensive. This is actually, I should say, high oleic sunflower oil and or coconut oil. So could be a little bit of coconut oil. You don't really know. Baking powder, natural flavors. Again, natural flavors. Who knows what that means? It says natural. Doesn't really mean it's natural. Cinnamon, sea salt, calcium carbonate, stevia extract, and monk fruit extract. I like this. This is pretty tasty. Again, would I have someone try and replace some of their cereal intake, very traditional cereals, with this? I think it would be a win. Again, with the goal of moving towards whole foods. So I think not bad, right? Again, pretty tasty alternative. I have 2 more here. 7 Sundays, they make this protein cereal. This is actually very good. This is really kind of like Cheerios, Honey Nut Cheerios, if you're familiar with that. This is their Simply Honey cereal. This is actually it's pretty tasty, and they nail that Honey Nut Cheerio type of flavor right on. Their ingredients is upcycled oat protein. So basically this is like I've only seen them do it, but basically what it says on the bag is that when they make something like oat milk, they left all this fiber and protein that gets left over from making the milk, and they basically take that and make the cereal out of it. So their protein in the cereal, not that they're marketing this as a high protein cereal or anything like that, comes from oats, essentially. And the second ingredient is upcycled non-GMO corn, same thing, but with corn. Cassava starch, wildflower honey, coconut oil, and sea salt. So their ingredient list is very simple, very upfront, straight. There's nothing really questionable out here. Yes, maybe the oats and the corn can bother some people, as well as the cost of a starch, again, with a gut situation. If you have gut problems, ultimately, you probably should be staying away from these foods to begin with. But yeah, they can cause issues gut-wise. But from a ingredient list, this is pretty much as basic as it gets, and it's very simple, straightforward. There, for about a cup, you get 1 cup is about 160 calories. Yeah, roughly the same as Magic Spoon and the Fruit Loops. 5 grams of fat, 25 grams of carbohydrates. So this is definitely not a low-carb cereal. Again, they're using oats and corn, so that's not surprising. 3 grams of fiber, 7 grams of sugars, the added sugars, which I assume is coming from the wildflower honey to give it that sweetness. So it's just a wild, which is added natural sugar, and 5 grams of protein. Again, if you're not into keto and you don't care necessarily about the carbs, this is great. It tastes just like Honey Nut Cheerios in my mind. And yeah, if you don't mind the oats and the corn, it works really well. Last one here. This is a relatively new one that I've just actually haven't even tried this flavor yet. So this is called Banana Apple Fritter. This is called Farm Girl cereal. They're out of Canada. I haven't tried this. I've only tried, they have a cocoa cereal, which actually tastes really like Cocoa Puffs, which is why I bought this in the first place, to get that nostalgic feeling, because I told you I love Cocoa Puffs. Yeah. So I haven't tried this one. This came in that pack, and I haven't opened this one yet. So I haven't tried it. But their other ones are the cocoa cereal one. It tastes just like coconuts, Cocoa Puffs. Again, there also says keto friendly, vegan, gluten-free, no seed oils. They're targeting kind of low carb space. Has 9 grams of protein, no added sugar. So let's take a look at this. So this has about 28 grams. So they don't list it by the cup here. So that's going to be a little bit less than cedar. Yeah. So the 7 Sundays was 1 cup at 40 grams. This is 28 grams for 70 calories. Actually, it's probably about the same, because this was 1 cup at 160 calories, and this is 28 grams at 70 calories. Roughly the same amount. If you can think of a calorie density wise, is very similar. It's 2 grams of fats, 18 grams of carbohydrates, 10 grams of fiber, 2 grams of sugars, no sugar alcohol. So if you are sensitive to sugar alcohols, this is a good option for you. 9 grams of protein. And from an ingredient point of view, they're also using oats. So oat protein, that's where the protein is coming from. Oat fiber, prebiotic fiber, faba protein, which faba is, I think, is a type of bean. Potato protein, oats, they're all plant-based proteins. Again, the amino acid profiles, blah, 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 might not be as good as animal-based proteins. But again, we're not trying to get our protein from the cereal, so who cares? Tapioca and or non-GMO maize starch, which is a cornstarch. And this, because it's a banana apple fritter, they'd have freeze-dried apples and freeze-dried bananas, cinnamon, turmeric, isomaltose, natural flavors, monk fruit juice extract, sea salt, aronia juice extract, and virgin avocado oil. So the oils that they're using here is avocado oil. You can't complain about that. It's a really good oil. Again, if you have sensitivities to oats, to beans, to potatoes, to tapioca, probably might be an issue from that point of view, but they're all gluten-free. If you have sensitivities to those types of foods, then maybe not the best for you. And again, they're just using freeze-dried banana, cinnamon, turmeric. Again, natural flavors is listed on here, so who knows what that is. But ultimately, I don't know how this exact one tastes, but like, the ingredient list is really good. Macros look pretty good, comparable to the other cereals. And again, not a bad option in my opinion. So ultimately, where does this leave us with this healthy cereal discussion? There's lots of different options coming to the market for cereal alternatives. And if you're someone who is eating bowls and bowls of cereal, and cereal is a staple in your diet, and you want to make a step in the healthier direction, choosing one of these alternative cereals is probably a good idea, in my opinion, to do that. Any of these options, in my opinion, are good, but just pay attention to gut issues, that type of any kind of sensitivities, any of the ingredients, pay attention to that. But you're actually making a step in the right direction if you're moving from a standard cereal to a healthy cereal alternative. Now, these cereals are processed foods, right? They are processed foods. I'm not going to say, and I've talked about how bad processed foods are. I don't care how healthy any of these cereals are or the ingredients that are in them. They are all processed foods. That means they are hyper palatable and easy to overeat. Like I said, half a cup of this perfect keto is 100 calories. You could easily eat, if you just pour that into a bowl without measuring it, you're going way over a half a cup, maybe 2 or 3 cups, right? So that's 300 calories easily, right? 400 calories even, right? You got to pay attention to that stuff. And for 400 calories, I could give you a whole big bowl of vegetables and eggs and come with a whole bunch of additional benefits health-wise from that type of stuff. So these are processed foods. They're easy to overeat. They're hyper palatable. And so eventually we want to minimize processed foods in our diet. I don't care how healthy they are or how unhealthy they are from an ingredient point of view or from a macro point of view, or if they have protein or no protein, or they have this oil or they don't have that oil or whatever, right? They have this fat profile, they have that. I don't care. They're processed foods. They're easy to overeat, easy to overconsume. Calories matter, and you're going to just overconsume calories if you eat these foods, right? The way I do this is I always measure my use of these cereals. I never just free range dump them on whatever I'm eating, right? And I'm always using a very small amount. For example, this morning I had some of this perfect keto cereal with my breakfast. I put it on top of my banana pancake that I showed you in the video on how to make. I measured out 13 grams of that cereal. 13 grams, a serving is 40 grams. So you're like just over a fourth of the serving size. I measured that out and put it on, right? I never just literally dump any of these things on anything because it's just easy to overeat them, right? And that's the amount that is included in my diet. The total of the cereals that I'll eat a day is about 20 grams of any of these cereals in a day, right? Which is way less than the serving size on any of these packages, any of the cereals that I showed you. So I'm very conscious about how I use them. But if you're conscious about them, you tolerate them, and it provides some level of enjoyment to your dietary patterns, I don't see anything terribly wrong with them. They're not a staple in I'm not using them to get protein. I'm not using them to get vitamins and minerals. I'm not using them. Literally, it's all just calories to me. I'm just trying to get some variety into my diet to eat a little bit more calories, right? And that provides a little bit of variety and it tastes good, right? For me, I'm just using them as a tool to eat a little bit more food, and that fits my goal. Now, if you're on a 1,500 calorie diet, I don't think you should be wasting your time with these cereals because you don't have enough calories to mess with eating something like this, because you need to focus on getting as many calorically dense foods into your diet to meet your protein, your carbs, your fats, and your vitamins and minerals from whole foods. And if you're using calories on these processed foods, you're not getting the best quality nutrition that you could possibly can, right? But you have some room in your diet for these things. You have some room for some calories, 100 calories or so from some foods that are just more processed. I think it's okay. It's an okay alternative. It's not an all or nothing approach. You have to consider the context which you're in. These aren't staples in your diet. You shouldn't be using them to hit your macros other than calories. You should be trying to get your protein from them. You should be trying to hit your carbohydrate goals from them. Use whole foods for that type of stuff. But if this adds a little bit of enjoyment and you have some calories to spare to your diet, and I think the healthy alternatives are great. And if you're someone who's already is consuming traditional cereal on the regular in abundance and you want to move to a healthy alternative, this is a great first step. Eventually, I want you incorporating whole foods and limiting the processed foods in your diet. But as a good first step in the right direction, I think it's okay to swap those out. That said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on some of these types of topics, please leave that below. Leave it in the comments. Other topics you want me to cover. If you have suggestions, please leave those in the comments below. Or questions or comments, different thoughts on these things, please leave that below as well in the comments. Or direct message me. I'm easy to get to as well. And I hope you enjoyed.